It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of Valentine's Day 2003, February 14th to be exact. We've got two movies to look at, two notable releases. One of them was the third of the Marvel movies to be released on the 20th Century Fox, and the other one was a sequel that probably should have been a Disney direct-to-video sequel, but for some reason, because Return to Neverland was a success, they put it in theaters anyway. We'll get to that one a little bit later on. Let's talk about the biggest new release of that weekend, and that is, of course, Ben Affleck as Daredevil. God, I miss those early 2000s superhero movie trailers. I mean, that's the perfect definition of a superhero movie trailer back in the day. I mean, you got, the quick shots of all the characters. You got all the notable names that you see in there. I mean, you got those little scenes, like the scene where Joe Pantoliano's throwing the lighter on the ground and it spells out DD. I mean, stuff like that is just so cheesy and so corny, but in kind of a way. And the music, the soundtrack too. I mean, Evanescence singing "Wake Me Up Inside." Like, it's cheesy, it's corny, but I kind of miss that with superhero movies nowadays. But even though superhero movies are clearly a lot better than this film is, I still miss those days when we had trailers like that. But Daredevil, directed by hack director Mark Steven Johnson, who later destroyed Ghost Rider, and starred Ben Affleck, pre-director era and pre-Geely career breakdown, which we'll get to that one later on in the year, in the title role. Fate deals young orphan Matt Murdock, played by Ben Affleck, a strange hand when he is doused with hazardous waste. The accident leaves Matt blind, but also gives him a heightened radar sense that allows him to see far better than any man. Years later, Murdock has grown into the man and has become a respected criminal attorney. But after he's done his day job, Matt takes on a secret identity known as the Man Without Fear, Daredevil, the masked avenger that patrols the neighborhood of Hell's Kitchen and New York City to combat the injustice that he could not tackle in the courtroom. He faces his greatest battle, Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. the Kingpin, played by Michael Clark Duncan, and his hired Bullseye, played by Colin Farrell, and teams up with Elektra, played by Jennifer Garner, to take out the bad guys. The movie takes a lot of elements from Frank Miller's Daredevil run, The Man Without Fear, and it does have a lot of problems to it. Very rarely does this movie have anything that makes it worth watching when you really look at it. I was honestly really bored watching this movie because nothing really goes on in this film. I mean, Ben Affleck is so bland in this movie, and when he's Daredevil, he's not any better. Like, his Matt Murdock's pretty bland. His Daredevil is somehow even worse. Like, the costume even really doesn't sell me. I mean, I get it. It's the same costume from the comics, but when they bring it to life, it just looks terrible. And you see why the original X-Men movies didn't bring, like, Wolverine's costume into the movies, because it really would have looked really stupid back then. Nowadays, with Deadpool and Wolverine on the horizon, they could actually make it look cool in that sense. But back then, no, they really wouldn't do. It really did not work back then, and it probably wouldn't have worked nowadays if you tried to do that. But I mean, the new Daredevil is much better. But we'll delve more into that in just a second. But Jennifer Garner's Elektra looks badass, but as a character, she's pretty bland. She's really poorly developed, and you can't really get invested into that character so much. And it really baffles me why Tom Rothman looked at this movie's success and said, "You know what we need to do next? Not a Daredevil sequel. Let's give Jennifer Garner a spin-off with her film." I mean, maybe I get why, because she was on Alias and she was one of the hottest TV stars on the planet at that point, both in a sense of superstardom and also in terms of sexuality. Because man, this was around the time that Alias aired after the Super Bowl. If you ever watch that episode, the way that begins, it's just like, man, that's just like that was her peak hotness to me, in my opinion. But but they said give her a spin-off movie, and unfortunately the film did not. That film was even worse than this, but we'll have to wait for a while to get to that one. But trust me, I will have a lot to say about it, because that movie holds some not so great memories for me. But continuing on, Colin Farrell's Bullseye is supposed to be this badass assassin, but he's very cartoonish in this. I mean, you never take him seriously as a bad guy. I don't care if he never misses a shot. I would have never found this guy threatening whatsoever. I would have been just laughing at him. It's just like, hey, at least I'm going to die laughing at your sorry ass. Surprisingly, the only person I thought that actually worked in this film was Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin. Okay, yeah, Kingpin is supposed to be white, but Michael Clark Duncan really captured more of that character he was supposed to play more than any other character in this film. Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio was great on the Marvel show that came out a couple years later, But Clark Duncan really does give it his all, and I thought he was the only character in this movie that I actually did like, and he's the bad guy. And it just proves you can change a character's race around, a gender or two, if you have to, and get the right act. If you get the right actor to do it, chances are you're going to put out a really good product too, and at least in a performance spectrum, I mean. But the padding scenes in between the action sequences in the story feel really lazy and uninspired. There's nothing in these scenes that keep you invested whatsoever, and I'm just waiting for the next action scene to begin. And even when that happens, it's really boring and very predictable. Almost every single one of these things we've seen done to death so many times in other movies and TV shows. Even the villain's motivation isn't really all that thought out. I mean, I don't even know what real plan he even had. The King, what did he really have to work with here? It's just like, when they finally reveal him, it's just like, you got to be kidding me. That's the most blandest, most mediocre plan I've ever seen. I mean, it feels like you feel like Steve on American Dad when Roger's about to beat up Stan, and he just Stan just hits him with a foot with a chair, and you're just looking at it, and Steve was just like, that was your plan? Like, I really felt like that. It's just like, that was really it? It's just like, I'm not going to reveal what it is, but once they reveal it, it feels really repetitive, and it's been done to death numerous times. And yes, I know that I'm mostly talking about the theatrical version, and I know there's a director's cut version, but yeah, it may be a slight improvement over the theatrical version, but is that really all you want, is a slight improvement? How about an actual good movie revolving around this character? This was the first real, I don't want to say straight up bomb, but like, it was the first real underperformer for Marvel once they finally got back on track with making movies and had a major studio behind it with X-Men and Spider-Man. This was the first one that really was a misfire in the long sense. I mean, they had a strong track record going up to that point with X-Men and Spider-Man, and then you have this. There was a little bit of a reprieve with X-Men 2, but then came cratering down again with Hulk after that, but we still got a lot of Marvel to get to in 2003, but there was potential for a great Daredevil movie, but they just didn't deliver on any of the potential that they had. They went to a hack director who never read Deadpool in his life. Just make a bland origin story. Make another movie that's like Batman. Like don't even try to do anything creative or new with it. You know, Spider-Man just came out. I mean, you couldn't have just looked at Spider-Man and said, "Hey, why don't we do a movie like that and actually get somebody to actually make it good?" No, we're not going to do that. But we're just going to get a bland origin story. And that's what Daredevil is. A lot of potential, but it just leaves you very disappointed by the end. A bad film, but trust me, it's going to get worse when we look at some of the other Marvel films coming up. So stay tuned for that one. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and move on to the last film we have here, and that is The Jungle Book 2 from Disney. I'll give it this. They did a pretty good job with the casting. I mean, who else are you going to get to play Baloo except for John Goodman? And, you know, at least in this one, Haley Joel Osment isn't listed as introducing Haley Joel Osment like they did with Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, but I digress. From Disney's wildly popular The Jungle Book comes a thrilling animated feature film. The jungle is jumping again as Mowgli, Baloo, Bagheera, the rest of your favorite characters return in the fun-filled musical adventure The Jungle Book 2. Mowgli has been living in the village among the humans. His new life includes his little stepbrother Rajan and his best friend Shanti, but the man cub still has the jungle rhythm in his heart, and he misses his old friend Baloo. When Mowgli wanders back into the wild for some swinging fun, he soon finds Baloo isn't the only one waiting for him. The man-eating tiger Shere Khan is lurking in the shadows and plans his revenge. If he is to defeat his nemesis, Mowgli will need the help of both his old friends and his new family. Okay, that's pretty much all the description I'm giving you here, because you can tell this was clearly written by somebody in Disney's PR department, but, like I said, the sad part about this movie is that there's clearly effort being put in there to make a film that is at least trying in terms of getting decent voice actors to replace the voice cast. I thought Haley Joel Osment and John Goodman did a pretty good job replacing Mowgli and Baloo, and they do get a lot of good job replacing the older actors along with the other actors in here to really make it feel like it's the same type of film. It's the same characters from the same movie, but they have different voices in there that clearly are not the same as the ones from the original 60s Jungle Book. But the downside is that everything else is mostly forgettable. It's not really a bad movie. It's a pointless sequel. Nothing ever changes from where things were in the opening to where they are in the ending. Nothing of value ever gets put out here. It's clearly a pointless film. It's clearly the definition of a straightforward cash grab. This is, like I said before, this had to be intended for a direct-to-video Disney sequel, but They saw what happened with Return to Neverland, saw that it did well because, let's be honest, there was no other family films around there for that to compete with, which, again, like this year, not a whole lot of family films to compete with it except for Kangaroo Jack. So, yeah, if I was Disney, I'd probably make that same decision too. I mean, take as much money away from that Kangaroo as you can, but they blew this up for the big screen. There was no reason to do so, and this is the end result we get. It's a pretty generic movie with a lot of bad animation, a lackluster storyline that's nothing but a retread of the first film, lame comedy, the new characters are unmemorable. It's just a dull film that has no reason to be on the big screen. I mean, you'd be better off just skipping this and just go back and watch the original movie again, or just watch the live-action remake that just came out with Jon Favreau directing it. I mean, there are so many better options out there than to watch The Jungle Book 2. You get a better movie experience with either the first film or the remake. I mean, quite frankly, that's pretty much all you can say about this movie, is that it's a pointless sequel, did not need to go to the big screen, did not even need to exist, but it's there. I've had my thoughts on it. Jungle Book 2. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and when we meet next time, we'll take a look at 5 movies, including Luke Wilson, Vince Vaughn, and Will Ferrell in the comedy Old School. We also have Kevin Spacey in The Life of David Gale, from the creators of Gettysburg, Gods and Generals, Kurt Russell in Dark Blue, and also we have Jean Reno and Juliette Binoche in the comedy Jet Lag. So 5 films overall to take a look at next time, and we'll delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I'm off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.